If you're thinking of making a move to Salt Lake City, Utah, or one of our surrounding suburbs, then you need to know the good, the bad, and the ugly about living in Salt Lake City, Utah. So today, I'm going to be completely honest with you and go over 5 things that are not so great about living here. As someone who has lived all over the country as a working adult professional, from the East Coast to the Midwest, and even in our sister city, Denver, I bring a unique, unbiased perspective on Salt Lake City's strengths and weaknesses. I didn't grow up here, I don't have family here, and I don't see Salt Lake City through the lens of hometown familiarity. I chose to move here, and I chose to move back. I've done what you are looking at doing. I've uprooted, and that's exactly why you need to watch this video and subscribe to my channel. I know what makes Salt Lake City stand out and what doesn't, so you can make the most informed decision before relocating. My contact info is on the screen, and I'm always getting calls and texts from people just like you looking to relocate to Salt Lake City. Let's dive in. Number 1, road rage. Utah drivers can be really aggressive, and I'm not just saying that. So Forbes recently ranked Utah as the 3rd worst state for aggressive drivers in the entire country. I have to be careful with my wording on here, but road rage incidents involving firing off have nearly doubled in Utah over the past year. So compared to other places I have lived, it definitely feels like everyone's in a rush and they're just competing to be in first place for the traffic stop. Other cities, I know they have this issue too, but for example, compared to Denver and the East Coast, it really seems much more aggressive here, at least in my experience. Number 2, air quality. We have what's called inversions, which is when the valley fills up with pollution. It creates a hazy, unhealthy air, and that can linger for a few days. So Salt Lake City sits in a valley surrounded by mountains, which creates a natural bowl that traps in the cold air. So these inversions don't typically last that long. Normally the warm air is gonna rise up, it's gonna help disperse out all the pollution. But sometimes in the winter, over a couple of days, a layer of warm air can settle above the valley, and that acts kind of like a lid, and it keeps the cold, polluted air stuck below. So they tend to be especially bad right before a storm rolls in, and that's because the air gets more stagnant the longer a high pressure system exists. Once a storm rolls in, it'll clear out and the skies will end up being clear and blue and beautiful. The inversions are going to be the worst in the winter, typically from December to February. The good news is that the inversions don't last the entire winter. One good storm is all it takes really to clear them out completely. So outside of winter, Salt Lake City, the air quality is actually decently clean. Compared to other major US cities, while Salt Lake City does have its share of air quality issues, the overall number of unhealthy air days might be comparable to or even fewer than some other major cities. Sometimes during wildfire months, when wildfires are more prominent across the western United States, the smoke, it'll roll in for a couple of days from our neighboring states and kind of just settle there for a little bit. It is also worth noting that outside of the inversion periods and outside of the wildfires, we do have really good air quality. We're gonna have really great air quality actually most of the time throughout the spring and summer months. Number 3, we have some strange alcohol laws. Before I get into that, I am a realtor here in the Salt Lake City area, and I serve the entire metro area. My goal in making these videos is that I can help you make an informed decision on relocating to Salt Lake City, whether that's 2 weeks, 2 months, or 2 years from now. And when that time comes, I can ultimately help you buy a home here in the Salt Lake area. I get messages and calls from hundreds of people just like you wanting to know more about relocating to Salt Lake City. So save my number, call me, or just shoot me a text anytime, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about what it is like to live here and buy a home here in Salt Lake City, Utah. So Utah's alcohol laws have evolved over the recent years, but depending on your preferences, some of them might still be a little annoying. You might have heard about the old membership requirement for bars, or what's known as the Zion Curtain, where restaurant bars had to be hidden from view of dining patrons. Thankfully, those rules are gone, but Utah still has some other regulations that other states just don't share. If you're looking for like a total wines and more, you're not gonna find that one here. Wine and spirits are only available in state-run liquor stores. They're not gonna be available in grocery stores. The good news though, is that you can buy beer up to 5% in grocery stores and like gas stations. So unfortunately, no Kirkland liquor or wine at Costco in Utah. Big bummer there. If you are planning a late night out, be aware bars stop serving alcohol at 12:59 a.m. And then restaurants are gonna stop serving everything except beer at midnight. So also the little mini bottles, the single serve liquor bottles, those are prohibited. So you're not gonna find those at any liquor stores here. And then bartenders in Utah, they're required to actually measure out the pours. So that means that the primary liquor in a drink is limited to 1.5 ounces. If additional alcoholic flavorings are used, then the total alcohol content can't exceed 2.5 ounces. So if you're ordering, for example, a large margarita, just know that it's probably going to be mostly sugary mix and not much alcohol, depending on where you order that from. Another thing to note is that a restaurant that's not licensed as a bar, you do have to order food if you want to drink alcohol. So this means that you can't just walk into a restaurant, sit at the bar, and grab a cocktail without ordering something to eat. Okay, so I want to go over when you can start drinking at different establishments. So if it's a restaurant, alcohol service starts at 11:30 a.m. on the weekdays, and then it'll start at 10:30 a.m. on weekends and holidays. If it's a bar and it's not a bar inside of a restaurant, they can start serving at 10 a.m. and you do not have to order food. One really helpful feature that I really like is that Utah offers the DABS app, D-A-B-S, and it's from the Utah Department of Alcoholic Beverage Services. So this is gonna let you check in real time the inventory of state liquor stores so you can see if the wine that you want or the liquor that you want is in stock before you make the trip to go purchase it. While the alcohol laws might be strict, the culture here it can be fun, especially after outdoor activities. So after a full day of skiing, you'll find plenty of people enjoying wine and cocktails, and a lot of them are actually locals. They're not just tourists. In the summer, the breweries in Salt Lake are gonna be packed with people who just went hiking or went mountain biking. And one thing to note is we do have a really unique brewery scene, and that's definitely worth checking out. Number 4, weather. We do have 4 seasons in Salt Lake City, which is probably one of the reasons you're considering moving here. In the winter, the valley is going to get snowfall. It'll typically melt away in a few days. On bigger snow years, that can stick around for a while, which means that you're gonna be shoveling your driveway and sidewalks quite a bit. Now that is on the bigger snow years. Pro tip, if you want to avoid having to shovel all the time, buy a south-facing house because the snow is going to melt on your sidewalks and you can just look out the window and watch your neighbors shovel their sidewalks, or if you're nice, you can go help them. It's also really dry here, 10 to 20% humidity, so you're gonna feel that on your skin and sinuses, and you'll even feel that your hair's a little more dry. One nice thing is when it gets hot in the summer, you can still enjoy sitting on the patio because it's not that hot and it's not sticky either like it gets in like the South and Midwest. Golfing in the afternoon typically isn't painful, and you're going to want to be outside. You'll want to go on a hike. You won't want to just, go from the air-conditioned car to the air-conditioned office to the air-conditioned house. Number 5, culture shock. Salt Lake City is unique, and a big part of that is the deep ties to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, also known as the LDS Church or the Mormon Church. While the city has become increasingly diverse, the church's influence is still evident in a lot of aspects of life. So that's going to be seen in local laws, the culture, and the politics. Many of the lawmakers here are members of the LDS Church, which has shaped certain policies, such as the alcohol regulations that we just got done talking about. So for some, this is going to reflect strong community values, but for others, it's going to be more of an adjustment when relocating. With states that have different laws and cultural norms, it's just going to be different here. Doesn't mean it's going to be bad. That said, Salt Lake City has grown into a more diverse and politically varied place than people might expect. The state does lean conservative, but Salt Lake tends to be a little more progressive. The city's been nationally recognized for LGBTQ+ equality by the Human Rights Campaign. So as the city continues to grow, the political culture and landscape, it's evolving, and that's very apparent, which does make a more dynamic place to live. All that being said, I do want to emphasize that there are so many things that I love and everyone else loves about living here. So there's a reason that we were just ranked in the top 5 for fastest growing states. It's pretty clear it's an awesome place to be. I did make a video on the best things about living in Salt Lake City, so make sure you watch that and see all the positives. And if you found the video helpful, give it a thumbs up. I really appreciate it. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you can know everything that's going on in our local Salt Lake City area. And reach out to me if you're thinking about relocating here. My husband Tyler and I, we work together and we help people just like you and would be more than happy to show you around town.